Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and we've got some breaking news coming out from Saudi in relation to our captain, Bruno Fernandes. We'll get straight into that, obviously get your thoughts in. We've got a live poll at the moment where 40% would sell him. Incredible, still incredible. I suppose you've got to play devil's advocate. But basically, the story is this. Al Hilal, who are going to play in the Club World Cup, are meeting Bruno Fernandes' agent and lawyer today to discuss the possible signing of the player before the start of the Club World Cup on the 14th of June. Now, this has been out for probably about an hour or so in the UK. We've spoken to a couple of people in the industry, well-known journalists, etc. And what we had back is, yeah, take it with a huge pinch of salt. Why would Manchester United do it? But what wasn't disputed is that Saudi Pro League have wanted Bruno Fernandes for a long time, and that's unlikely to change this summer, like it didn't change last summer, and it didn't change the summer before that. They would love to take Bruno Fernandes to the Saudi Pro League. And whether this is a public PR exercise to say, we still want you, if you're interested, the offer's here again, maybe it's that. Conversations don't necessarily lead to that. But, I mean, I suppose the question would have to be posed. If they gave us £100 million cash up front, would you sell Bruno Fernandes, who is going to be 30 next season? This season. 31, I think, actually. Let me just double check with that. So, look, it's not... He'd be 31 in September, sorry. No. I should have got this out in the first 2 minutes. No. I'm not, no. I do not want to do this deal. That's my response. No. I have said over the last 2 years, there has been times where I would have sold Bruno Fernandes. I'll put my hands up. And if anybody doesn't do that, well, you know what? Maybe you're Player FC, maybe you're really intelligent. I don't know. But I'll put my hands up and be honest. There has been times where I've said, what is Manchester United over the next 5 years with Bruno Fernandes? Because I think for about 12 months, he was not that good. But in the last 6 months, he's been brilliant. And I think what we have learned about Bruno is that without him on the pitch, we are not the same team. We don't have enough instructors. We don't have enough experience. We're buying youth, we're developing youth, and we don't have enough Brunos. So why would I want to sell that at a time where we need more of that? So no. And people will say, well, there's a price on anything. And I suppose there is. And I'll give you the other side of the coin. But there isn't a price on something when, I mean, look, I'm thinking as I speak here. As I said, I've had a couple of messages in the last half an hour that basically say, very unlikely this would happen, but Saudi will definitely do it. So it's not like Real Madrid want to give Man United £80 million for Garnacho. That's just not going to happen. Barcelona want to give £60 million to Manchester United for Rashford. That's not going to happen. Saudi will give us £100 million for Bruno. Like they would love to have Bruno Fernandes. So they will do it. That side of the thing is not up for argument. That's not a dispute. And that's very rare that you actually get the club that want our player actually do want our player. It's just, why would we do it? Why would we do that? We would have to be, we may as well just change our name to Mercenary United, because that probably excites the hell out of the Glazers. Joel Glazer's probably ecstatic, thinking, well, at the end of the day, no, that's Jim. It's just a footballer. Everybody's got a price. Business people work like that. Everybody's got a price. But as fans, as Ruben Amorim, you're going to go, hold on a minute. We might have had a really bad season, and it has been a really bad season, and we're trying to rescue it with the Europa League. But without Bruno Fernandes, we're not rescuing anything. He carries the team, quite rightly, says Adji. You can't let a player like that go. We can't be, as fans, criticising Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool. And I leave that to Liverpool, as I said on That's Football. But I do empathise with the fact that he's 26. I love Liverpool, but I'm leaving for free and going to Real Madrid. You know, I look at that and I do empathise. We can't have that as football fans and say, where's the loyalty in football? You know, people running their contracts down and leaving at 26 from the club that they apparently love. We can't criticise that and then go, actually, I would get rid of Bruno for £100 million to Saudi. Because where's our loyalty, you know? Like this, just good job my glasses with that. Where's our loyalty? Like, where would we be without Bruno Fernandes? I can't for 1 second contemplate that we can do that deal. £100 million might be great as well. People might go, £100 million is fantastic, but how much of that £100 million actually gets spent? How much of that goes to debt? How much of that goes to somewhere else? So I wouldn't trust this ownership with making money anyway. So no. What I will say is, what about Bruno Fernandes? Because that's the most important thing. And I don't think he would want to do it. I don't think Bruno Fernandes strikes me as the sort of player at 31 that wants to go and play in the Saudi Pro League. Let Ivan Toney go and do it. You know, let Ruben Neves do it. He plays for Portugal as well. But I don't think for 1 second that Bruno Fernandes strikes me as the sort of player that wants to go and play in the Saudi Pro League at the moment. I think he wants to keep playing at the top level. I think he wants to play every bloody game of every minute at the top level. And I don't think he'd want to go. The only thing that might, and I don't think it makes any difference either, is if we don't win the Europa League and we don't qualify for the Champions League, and Bruno Fernandes walks into the office of Omar Barada and says, I'm 31 this season and I'm not going to be in the Champions League for another year, and then I'm going to be 32. What are the plans to get us back in the Champions League? And Omar Barada says, well, we're broke, so we might not be back in it when you're 32. Then you might look at it if you're Bruno Fernandes and go, so I'm not going to be in the Champions League next year. I'm probably not going to be in the year after. I might not be in the year after that. You know, maybe now is the time to do that. But no, I don't see for 1 second that Bruno would want to do it, even if we don't be in the Champions League for 2 or 3 years. I think he, as the captain of Manchester United, I think he takes great pride in that, takes great responsibility in that, and I don't think he'd want to go. But I do think that the Saudi Pro League would love to take him, definitely. Looking at it, and get your comments in as well, looking at it pragmatically, looking at it as a devil's advocate of the other side, look, 56%, it's going up actually. It's actually going up. 44% would sell Bruno for £100 million. I'd love to know from them 44% why you would do it. I mean, I don't think £100 million is enough, to be honest. He's actually been very, very good for us this season, certainly since Amrim came in. So selling your captain and best player for £100 million at 30 to the Saudi Pro League, I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's not actually an amount of money that makes me go, ooh, yeah, let's do that. Look, a year ago it might have done. I've got to be honest, a year ago, I don't think Bruno was anywhere near. I think he'd had a bad season. Okay, he played well in the FA Cup final, but I think he'd had a bad season. A year ago, I might have done it. But right here, right now, under this manager, under this vision, under this project, absolutely not. £100 million wouldn't make it move for me. But I suppose some people might look at it and go, that £100 million for a 31-year-old, because he will be 31 next season, I could use that £100 million on 2, 3, 4 players. And it would be 2 or 3, 4 players, wouldn't it? Because you're not going to pay £100 million up front for anybody. You know, you might get, with instalments, you might get 4 or 5 players out of that. Noah says, saying we would sell him doesn't mean we want him out. He's at a peak value and he's 30. If he wants to go, I'd be okay selling him. Not actively trying though, says Noah. Oh, mate, that completely changes the story. If Bruno Fernandes wants to go and play for the Saudi Pro League, then I think you have a different conversation, don't you? I'd be very surprised if he did, but if he wanted to do it at that price, you'd probably say yes. And look, I must just keep saying this. It's not a big load of nonsense story. Like, it's nonsense in the sense that we would be crazy to sell Bruno, but it's not nonsense in the sense that the Saudi Pro League are looking to buy Bruno Fernandes. That's been established from Fabrizio and many other people for at least 24 months. And also, there is this early transfer window that starts on June the 1st because of the Club World Cup. Clubs who are going to play in the Club World Cup are being encouraged to buy players in early June. FIFA actually want it to happen. FIFA actually want this Club World Cup to be a big deal. So they want clubs to not just wander into it tired after a big domestic season. They actually want clubs to do it. I'm intrigued to see how that's going to work because, trust me, the brief in the industry is that the reason that transfer window has been brought forward before the Club World Cup is because FIFA are really going, look, there's a lot of money in this. Chelsea are going to make 50 million quid just for turning up because they won the Champions League 4 years ago. They're very fortunate to be in the tournament at all. So FIFA are saying, look, you're all going to make a lot of money out of this tournament. We want you to take it seriously. We want you to bring players in. So there will be some high-profile deals done before. I'm not saying that that's going to be Bruno Fernandes, but what I'm saying is that the Saudi Pro League definitely do want Bruno, and I wouldn't be surprised if they are having talks, but it shouldn't get any further than that. Vengeance says Bruno's on 300k a week as well. That's an unjustifiable wage. Could the Glazers be moulding our youth into 4-3-3 system to align with other team styles to make them easier to sell? Shows youth are a factory project, as Ferda. That's quite out there, Ferda. Thanks very much. Would you take £150 million for Bruno and Onana combined, says Gemsy? You see, what you're trying to do is you're trying to force me to a point where I say I will sell Bruno. Does everybody have a price? Look, if they wanted to give us £300 million for Bruno Fernandes, I can't sit here with a straight face and say I wouldn't take it. It's £300 million. But we're not going to get £300 million. We're not going to get £150 million. The most we're going to get is 100. And for me, that's a no deal. Constantine's back. He says, I wouldn't sell Bruno for any price tag. There are some players you just don't sell. He's one of them. I think Amrim has helped his performance as well, says Constantine. And you know what? I sort of agree with you because if they did offer us 150 million quid, I think a lot of people would go, I'll take it. But the whole world knows we've got 150 million quid then. And then you're sort of like, well, let's go and get Edison from Atalanta. We want 70. Okay, let's go and get Wharton from Crystal Palace. Yeah, we want 80. And your money's gone straight away on two players. Are Man United a better team with Wharton and Edison and no Bruno? I don't think they are. So it's just a no. It's a no. I don't think we could get a player as good as Bruno for 100 million. Or is that a billion? So what's the point, says Rob Always United. And selling Bruno could be our selling Coutinho moment. Reinvest it wisely and we are back, says Hamian. Paramveer, lots of people getting their comments in on this. Thanks for the super chats, by the way. Paramveer Singh says, deal should only be done if it's over £120 million and we don't get the Champions League, as he's probably the only valuable player to finance a rebuild, if not in the Champions League. You see, I don't agree with that. Obviously, my stance has been given, so I'm not going to bore you with it again. But this is why I wanted to get everybody else's opinion, because I don't agree with that, but I understand that. That is logical from Paramveer. I respect and understand the logic of that, even though I don't agree with it. If we don't qualify for the Champions League and they gave us £120 million, Paramveer would do it, because if we're not in the Champions League, we're in massive problems, we're probably screwed, we're never going to get back, so there's no point having Bruno. You may as well sell him and get money for him and reinvest it into a rebuild that we desperately, desperately need. I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. United need rebuild. He's 30 plus for 100. Do it every day, says this Addy. Tony says, if we sell him, in fact, you know what? This has just got me thinking. I'm going to do, look, the Bruno story will be true in the sense that Saudi want him. I'm going to give you two hypotheticals about two different players, and I'm going to put price tags on them and ask you if you would sell them. You can probably guess which two players it's going to be, but I'm going to do it in a few minutes' time once we've worked our way through this, because it's just got me thinking about the fact that there's 44% of you that would sell Bruno for £100 million. I find that incredible, but that's democracy. That has given me a couple of ideas I want to ask this community. Please do share the video if you're watching, by the way. We went live a little bit early because it's bank holiday and I was bored, and this story came out and I just couldn't wait an hour. If we sell him, who replaces him? Because replacement will cost us a lot of money and we will need time to adjust to the league and playing style, says Tony. Now this is where I can give you another devil's advocate, Tony, because how many times did we say, where does Bruno fit into Amrim's system? Is Bruno playing in the pivot actually good enough as a midfielder defensively to play next to just one Agate, Edison or Mainu? So is he actually suitable to play in the pivot? And is he mobile enough to play in the two behind the striker? So does Bruno actually suit the Amrim system? Obviously, yes, but I'm playing the devil's advocate here. Bruno Fernandes, I don't think, is a midfielder. Bruno Fernandes, I don't think, is what Amrim really wants behind the striker. I think he wants more mobility. So does he actually fit the system? Maybe people are looking at it like that. 44% of the chat is unwell, says Vidic92. Noah says, this is a fair point from Noah. He says, look, saying we would sell him doesn't mean we want him out. He's at peak value and he's 30. If he wants to go, I'd be okay selling him. I'm not actively trying. No, and Noah's spot on here. Well, look, I don't think 44% are saying let's sell Bruno. It's a very distinctive reality situation that the Saudi Pro League have wanted Bruno for 2 years. And if they put £100 million on the plate, 44% of you would take it. It's not like, let's sell him for £30 million to Everton. Like, it's a very distinctive situation. It's unique, it's opportunist, and it doesn't happen very often. The Saudi Pro League is not queuing up to buy every player. The Saudi Pro League is not queuing up to spend £100 million on many players. This is one particular player that they've been looking at for a long time, and you can understand why. Bruno doesn't have a long-term future. Great player on his day, but the club comes first, says Ben Ellis. Also, Dunny says for the people voting to sell need to go to Specsavers. Jacob says I'd do it for 200 million because he's so important. Elliot says we're not accountants at Manchester United. The price should be irrelevant for us fans. He's way too important for this rebuild of the squad as we need seniors. So it's a no. I think that's a well-constructed comment, Elliot, because you shouldn't really be looking at the 100 million unless the scenario is the 100 million gets given to Amrim. In a reality world, we would never give a full price tag to a manager. It's going to go somewhere else. If they sold Bruno, Amrim would quit, says Mariaki. Why would we sell? No, I mean, look, if we sold Bruno, it would have to be Bruno wants to go and Amrim gets the money, I would say. Benzi said, why would we sell Bruno? We are awful without him. And if they did sell him, who would you buy to replace him? Says Like Schofield. I'm going to answer that question. Harvey says 100 million would be excellent to rebuild the squad with. I'm going to answer that question from Like Schofield, and I want some of you to answer it as well. If they did do this deal, if Bruno wanted to go and they did do the deal and we got 100 million pounds, how would you replace Bruno Fernandes? Now this is a leap into the hypothetical future. I'll tell you who I would replace him with. No one. I'd turn my back on that scenario. I'd go, we can't replace him. We're not going to replace him. I want to bring in two midfielders that are midfielders who can take the ball off the back four and play in the pivot. And I want to have two players behind the striker who are mobile, creatives and quick. I wouldn't look to replace Bruno like for like. One, I don't think you can. And two, I don't think we should. I think Bruno Fernandes transcends systems. I think Bruno Fernandes is all action, all over the place, can do lots of different things very, very well, and be a captain. You're not going to replace that. So if Bruno Fernandes left, I'd probably get Edison and Cherki, for example. Neither of them are Bruno Fernandes, but that's what I probably would do. I would just get decent players that suit the system. I wouldn't go and get a Bruno Fernandes replacement. One, because I don't think there is one out there, and two, systematically, I don't know that Bruno definitely sort of has a best position. I think he can play multiple positions. If Saudi want Bruno, they've got to get Casemiro too, says Saint Bart. They offered 100 million for Matoma and Bruno is clear, says Samuel. Exactly. This isn't going to happen. This cannot happen. But they will pay the money. They are interested. If we sell Bruno, who will carry us in the Champions League next year, says DV, if we're in it, and more worried about what Glinios would do, 100 million of pure profit, they would surely be tempted, says Julian Lee. Yes, Bruno Fernandes, of course, would be pure profit. People will get quite confused by that, but he would be pure profit because obviously his original contract has been renewed, so there is no residual amortization. So like below, it's pure profit if we sell them. Keel Robinson, very blunt. Either we are rebuilding or we are not. Sell him. Inquisition says, disagree entirely. We are not a well-run club with a lot of debt. We are not Aston Villa that can take advantage of such a sale. Bruno should not be sold. Fair point. Tom Grant says, hi Mark, Bruno is priceless to some, but some people would want a lump sum at least. For me, he needs to stay. Look how we play without him. Thank you very much, Tom. And NGD said, wouldn't trust us to spend 100 million on better players, says NGD. The fact that 100 million for 30-year-old is justification by some accountants shows a lot why Glazers are still in charge, taking the dividend out. That's from Dunny. Would you take 150 million for Bruno? I've done that one from Gemsy as well. And Billy Welch says, his value has peaked. He's 30. I'm not sure he even has a natural position in this system. He's not going to get any better and his wages won't go down, says Billy Welch. This is look, I tell you what, we're getting some very bloody good comments on this. I mean, I've sort of had my say on this, but just want to just double check something, because this is the brilliance of doing these shows, is that it's impossible for the human mind to go beyond opinion and have every answer and every scenario. And you've just got something, you've just triggered something in my mind about Bruno Fernandes here that I just wanted to bring into the show and be correct about it. So Bruno Fernandes has basically got 3 years left on his contract. So in 3 years' time, he will be approaching 34 and we'll still be paying him 300 grand a week. So at 33, we will be paying him 300 grand a week because that's the contract he's got. Because I think what Billy's saying is, yeah, Bruno Fernandes is fantastic. Bruno Fernandes is a very important player, but the contract he's on, he will be on that contract in 2 years, 3 years on 300 grand a week. If he's peaked and he's going to drop off, then that's a lot of money to be spending on a player. I don't think there's ever been a season where Bruno didn't play 3 consecutive matches. I believe he's underrated because he's always available, says me. And who would be our captain? Who would be our orchestrator? Forget about his individual skills. There's too much he does for the team for us to sell him, says Andre. And I strongly agree on this point as well. It's all right saying that this team needs more leaders. It's all right, people like Roy Keane and others saying that Bruno Fernandes is not a very good captain. And in fairness, compared to people like John Terry, Nemanja Vidic, Patrick Vieira, and certainly Roy Keane, Bruno Fernandes is a terrible captain because they were great captains. But in the context of the modern world, I think he's a very good captain. I don't think there are any Roy Keanes anymore. I don't think there are any, Gattuso type characters. They're just not there. Certainly not in the Premier League. So not only are you trying to replace our best player, you're also trying to replace our captain and leader in the dressing room. And I don't know who goes. I don't know who you go and get. I just don't know who you would go and get. I don't know anybody in football that's going to come into this club and be a captain straight away. And remember, very rarely do you buy a player who becomes your captain straight away. They might be able to in 2 or 3 years' time when they've settled in, but you'd have to go from within. It's got to be somebody there at that football club right now. Who? Harry Maguire for a year? There isn't anybody. It'd be ridiculous to even contemplate doing this. I wouldn't do this I don't do this for 2 or 3 years from now. We need him now. But if we do you think it will fund Mbeumo and Cunha? Says Amit. We don't need Mbeumo and Cunha. I think that'd be a massive waste of money. We don't need Cunha and Mbeumo. We don't need Cunha and Eze. We don't need anybody else other than Cunha when we've got Xerxes and Ahmad and Garnacho and Mount and Bruno. We don't need another attacking midfielder. We shouldn't be, in my opinion. Aditya says, we shouldn't sell Bruno for 100 million. Coutinho went for 150. Bruno's too important. Reject the offer. If they return with 250, 300 million, then maybe consider replacements and squad upgrades. Yeah. Constantine says, love what you do. If you are the board, what are you telling Amrim he needs to finish in the table next season? I believe fight for top 6, but anything below 8th is not good enough. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think it's a fair comment. And I think if you removed Bruno Fernandes from the team, I think you might be talking about being below 8th place again. Like it's such an important area of the pitch, captain, etc., etc. I do believe that you've got to be looking at fighting for top 6, but no lower than 8th. I agree. Bruno's great at papering the cracks in the team. He makes us look good, yes, but arguing that we're awful without him right now, without any Amorim signings to create his own structure, is wild, says Nick P. Yeah. And also, I don't know whether you're getting at that point, Nick, but what I do agree with you is that we are in a very similar situation to what we were with David De Gea in the mid sort of 14-15 time. We were shit. But David De Gea was winning Player of the Year every year. And we were in that position where we were going, where would we be without De Gea? We'd be relegated without De Gea. And we've sort of got into a similar situation with Bruno. And although De Gea was a goalkeeper, I think what Nick has said, again, sparks something in my mind that this is not necessarily a good thing, how reliant we are on Bruno. Just the same as being reliant on David De Gea. We need to build a team. There's no... We can't be reliant on individuals. We need to build a team. And it would be a horrific thing to sell Bruno Fernandes right now. But surely part of Amorim's plan, I would like to think in 12 months' time, we might be able to revisit this and go, in the next 12 months, it might not be a bad idea if he wants to go to Saudi to cash in. That sounds horrible, but it's actually a compliment and it's actually a show of faith in the manager. We have got to replace Bruno at some point. We have to have that strategy. De Bruyne is a prime example of that. You can't go on forever. You won't go on forever. So I would agree with Nick. I think that we're very reliant on Bruno at the moment and it's unthinkable to cash in on him. But in 12 months' time, I would hope we're moving closer towards doing that with Amorim bringing in players that suit his system and building a team that isn't so reliant on Bruno. I agree. But for now, yeah, well, that's just natural evolution. Every manager should be looking at a player and going, if they get a career-ending injury or they drop off, what's my replacement? We have to start looking at that, but not now. If Saudi want Bruno, they've got to get Casemiro as well, says St. Bart. I think I've read that one. Appreciate that. Can we re-sign David or have Shaw as captain, says LZ. We won't get a bit better deal than 100 million, says Jacob. But you don't have to get a better deal than 100 million either, Jacob. Like in that scenario I was talking about there, let's say in a year's time, Man United have got back in the Champions League again. We're building a team. Some of the younger players are moving forward. Maybe Agate stepped up and becoming more of a leader. Maybe the team's becoming more of a team. And you look at it and you go, yeah, maybe we would take 60 million for Bruno from Saudi now. So it's all context, isn't it? Real Madrid do this exact thing. They sell players when they know there could be a drop-off and then rebuild with good scouting. Look, we've helped Real Madrid do that. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Alex. We've helped Real Madrid do that on 2 occasions. Varane, we were like, why are they selling Varane? Oh, now we know. Casemiro, why are they selling Casemiro? Now we know. They got good prices out of us for both players. That's what I'm saying. I think there will be a time to look at moving Bruno on, especially when he's on 300 grand a week. I mean, if Bruno is doing what he's doing now at 32, happy days. But come what may, we're going to be paying him 300 grand a week for the next 3 years. So there might be a time where we want to do it. Alfie Smith has given us his first ever super chat. I'm going to give you a heart for that. Thank you, pal. I've been watching for years now, since I was 10. I thought I'd give something back for everybody, everything you've done for me and the United community. I wouldn't sell Bruno for 100 million. Thank you very much, Alfie. Hope you're doing well. Too many of us fear the unknown, says Keel. I don't fear the unknown. I think the unknown is better than what we've known over the last decade. So I don't fear the unknown. I just think there's a time to do it. Highest Saudi transfer to date is 75 million for Neymar, and yet they did offer 100 million for Matoma, so I think the 100 million for Bruno would be spot on. Steve Wynyard with the super chat says, we need to remember that if it wasn't that long ago, a lot of us were complaining about Bruno and saying we should be looking to drop or sell him. He's had periods of months of very bad form. Fair point. I don't think there's even been a season where Bruno didn't have done that one from Mill as well. So anyway, it's locked in. It's 46% say yes, they'd sell Bruno for £100 million. It's 54% of you saying no, you wouldn't. That's a lot closer than I thought it would be. I'm firmly in the no, I wouldn't do this deal. But just as a reminder, where we are with this is that in the last couple of hours, it's come out from Saudi that they're in talks today with agents and representatives of Bruno Fernandes about a transfer before the Club World Cup for Al Hilal, who will complete in that. We've been told that, well, what we were told is, and from a very good source, a journalist in that space, is that there is no dispute that the Saudis have been trying to get Bruno Fernandes for 2 years, and it won't be any different this summer. And that's all they would say. Well, no, it wasn't all they said, because they said it's very, very, very unlikely that Man United or Bruno would want to go. So that's sort of where we are. It's a weird one, because sometimes you get a stupid story about a player that's never going to leave to a club that's never going to put an offer in. But the Saudi Pro League would take Bruno Fernandes, and they would pay us very handsomely for it. But no, we can't do it. No, I can't see Bruno wanting to do it. And no, I can't see Man United wanting to do it. Could not winning the Champions League change that? It could change our appetite. I still don't think it would change Bruno Fernandes' appetite. No. Marlowe says, statistically, Bruno is the best creator in the league this season, but how can that be true when being a striker at United is a graveyard shift? I trust the eye test and say that Bruno is not as valuable as we think he is. I did some work on this, Marlowe. I can speak from knowledge, and those people who can remember can speak from knowledge too. We did a video on this about 18 months ago. I think it was like February last year. So we'd had 6 months of the season. We were playing really badly. Bruno wasn't playing very well. And there was some stat going around that he'd created more chances from open play than anybody else. And we looked into it. And basically, if Garnacho gets the ball on the halfway line, runs past 3 players and shoots from 40 yards, if Bruno gave him a 5-yard pass to do it, that's called chance creation. So you can't trust what... It's counted as a chance if I give Rashford the ball and he shoots from 40 yards. That's counted as a chance creation. So, yeah, it doesn't always stack up. But what does stack up is that Bruno's contribution to this side this season has been incredible. And what does stack up is that Bruno's contribution to Manchester United since we signed him has been incredible. And what does stack up is he's been our best signing since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. And what does stack up is that I just don't think we're in a position to even contemplate selling a player like this. He's too important. Safe Zone says, can you say hi to my daughters Alia and Azetta, please? There you go. And also, he has to be backed, can't get 6th with this team, says Daniel. Oh, yeah, 100%. Arif says, our over-reliance on Bruno is why he can get away with consistently terrible ball retention and shooting from distance when we don't need it. Duncan says, De Ligt is the most natural pick as captain. And yet we don't know how long De Ligt could be out for, do we? So there we are. NB97 says, Mark, Manchester United are in 16th place. Therefore, nobody is untouchable. Look, I've said my bit. You've said your bit. If anyone else wants to put something else in, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to ask you another question now. So 46% would sell Bruno for 100 million. I think that's a bit high, but whatever. 54% of you wouldn't. Okay, maybe that's a hint about where this is going to go. I want to ask you, there's no stories about this. Like the Bruno story is true. Like Saudi Pro League do want to get him, but this is not true what I'm about to ask. This is simply a question for you. So here we go. Would you sell for 60 million? I'm going to do 2 players. Would you sell Mainu for 60 million pounds? If so, why? Let me know. If not, why? Let me know. Would you say Maguire in his recent exploits has repaid us for the 80 million we paid for him as repeat factor? Let me say yes and let me explain it, right? We paid £25 million for Victor Lindelof. Do you think he was worth it? People would say no. But over 8 years, we've probably got value out of him. And I'd say the same about Harry Maguire. He was never worth £80 million. He was never an £80 million centre-back. I mean, fair play to Maguire. When he retires, he will always have that on his Wikipedia page. £80 million, most expensive. I think he is the most expensive English centre-back in history. So, and I don't know whether that won't get beat for quite a while, I don't think. So he was never worth £80 million. But over the course of a very long Man United career, you could argue that we've probably got value out of him. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because you've got to add wages in as well. 200 grand a week for however many years. So it's not just £80 million. It's probably, I mean, what's Maguire's wage a year? 200 grand a week, for 800 grand a month, times 10. So it's about £9.5 million a year. How many years has he been here? Let's say 5. So we've spent about £130 million on Harry Maguire. Have we had value? It's an interesting prospect. It's an interesting conversation. How many trophies did we get for that? We probably haven't really, have we, if we're being honest? But that doesn't mean he hasn't been good over the last 2 years. But I don't think we've had £130 million worth, really, have we? But did we get £90 million worth out of Paul Pogba? No. Especially when you add his wages. So no, absolutely not. Are you doing a Palace Nottingham Forest watch along? No, not tonight, mate. I'm doing the Champions League, though, for the next couple of nights. Alfie Smith says, I don't want to imagine the worst, but who would you replace Bruno and other signings with the budget? Also, would you give captaincy? Well, we went through this, Alfie. I don't know who you'd give the captaincy to because it would have to be somebody internally. And, I mean, you'd probably give it Maguire, but Maguire struggled with it. He's better without it, and he's only going to be here for a year. So, yeah, we're not ready to sell Bruno Fernandes. I know some of you would do it, but it would be a step backwards. We're not ready to do it. No way. Right. This is better. Would you sell Mainu for £60 million? 71% of you say no. 29% of you say yes. Now, I can't read you lot. I like this. I can't read this chat tonight at all. I don't know what's going on here because you've got 44% of you who would sell Bruno Fernandes for 100 million. But then we've got 70% of you that won't sell Mainu for 60, which I think is it's quite interesting that because I wouldn't sell Mainu, as you know, but that doesn't make sense to me. How we can have 44% willing to sell Bruno, but only 29% would sell Mainu. Now there is a £40 million difference. But Bruno is delivering way more than Mainu is at the moment. Mainu's potential. So why would you not cash in on £60 million of pure profit? I wouldn't. I'm just saying to the 44% that would do Bruno, why are some of you now saying you wouldn't do it for Mainu? Age, wage and potential, says Rob. Yeah, fair point. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this because although he's not had a very good season, I still think, like, there's 2 years to make this decision. 22, I'd like to see where Mainu is, and that's 2 years' time. A lot could happen in 2 years' time. At 22, if it goes well, he'll be worth 80 million, and we've just lost 20, and he's playing for somebody else. So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I don't think it... I just wouldn't do it. I think there is a player there, and... yeah, it's a no from me. Why would you sell Mainu? He's our future, says Liam Cox. Bruno reminds me of Scholes in his twilight, meaning that drop Bruno in the midfield as an NFL quarterback with Cunha in the number 10 role. Sounds like a great recipe for success. Point being, do not sell Bruno, says Yusuf. Patrick Lynch is in the house. Thank you, Patrick, for your super chat. He says, Bruno is a difficult player to pin down. Some cling to stats, others talk about intangibles. Reality is, he is not as good or as bad as his fans or haters say. He's been the linchpin of the team. Sell him, and who replaces him? Ricky's messaged me, by the way. He said he would sell Bruno for a couple of pints. No, he didn't. He hasn't messaged me at all. I'm sure Ricky would do it. Wonder how much he would want for it, though. Nick P says, no to Mainu. His ceiling is too high. We should be turning him into a world beater. Arsenal would have made him one of their main men by now. Fair point. Fair point. It would be a no from me as well. Right. 30% would sell Mainu for 60 million, 70% wouldn't. The next one I'll ask you about, you're probably going to guess. For me, this is all about the price I pitch. It's not as simple as would you sell, because I think that makes it too easy for you. And I'm not going to go high on it. I'm going to go realistic on it. Would you sell Garnacho for 50 million? Yes or no? Get in the chat with that. Just while people are doing that, a little bit of topical stuff. A lot of people keep asking me about Mastantano, who plays for River Plate, and whether he's coming to Manchester United. What I've been told on that is, no, we're not doing that deal. Now, the only thing I have been told is that there's no indication United will do it. They're probably interested. They've probably scouted him, but they do that with a lot of people. Unless they're about to pull off another Euro worldie, which there's no indication that they are because George Mendes isn't involved, this is not something that United are going to do. And yet, people keep regurgitating it. So just be wary that we do get linked to these South American players and they never happen. And it's very, very unlikely that this will happen either. Ronald says, it makes no sense to sell your best players when you're trying to build a squad. We are not trying to be Everton, says Ronald. Yes, fair point. Fair point on that. Hold on a minute. Let me have a quick look here. I'm just about to talk about the Garnacho one. There we go. Somebody said we'd had an update from Samsey. I'm just gone on his social media. I can't see it at all. I don't know why I'm not seeing that, but let me know. Okay. Selling Bruno would be a catastrophe, says Mojo. Alejandro Garnacho 22, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for that. So, would you sell Garnacho for £50 million? 40% yes, 60% no. A little bit higher than Mainu, who was 30%. A little bit lower than Bruno, that was at 44%. I see no difference here. I see no differential between Garnacho and Mainu. They're both 20. They're both not the finished article. They both have immense potential, and they both need to be nurtured to a different level than where they are now. And they both have so much potential. So for me, it's another no. It's too dangerous and it's too irresponsible to even risk doing it. So it would be a no for me. I also think £50 million is a joke. I think it's a risk anyway, but I think £50 million is bordering on negligence, because if he goes on, I mean, at 20, you sell him for £50 million, and he does good. At 25, the club that buy him have had a good player for 5 years and paid £10 million for him, and at 25, they'll be able to get that money back easily. So you've always got to factor in the age of a player. Like if you sell Mainu for 60 or Garnacho for 50, unless they flop, you're going to look at Pratt. Because if I'm, I don't know, Napoli, and United say, we'll take 50 million for Garnacho, I'm like, I will bite your effing hand off. Because I look at the player and I like him, but I also go, and people don't think about this enough. If he's 20 years of age and I get him for 50 million and he does well, in 5 years, I've spent 10 million a year to get him. And then in 5 years at 25, when he's still not in his peak, I can sell him again and get my money back. Or maybe even make a profit. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. But there'll be people there going, yeah, I'd do it for 50. It's so stupid. You're selling a player that's probably got 12 years of his career on left. There is a reason that Brighton wanted £100 million for Caicedo, and Benfica wanted £100 million for Enzo, and Declan Rice, West Ham wanted £100 million for Declan Rice, because they were factoring in the next 12 years of their career and the resale value. Imagine if Arsenal had paid West Ham 60 million for Declan Rice and he'd done what he'd done. He'd be worth 100 now, and he's still not, 26, 27, is he? So you've got to look at that and go, I'm not saying that Garnacho's worth £50 million now, but I think he is, because I think that there's such a potential there, and the resale value as well. I think we'd be stupid to do that. But that's just a financial decision. I also think, and I've said this before, I'm not selling Garnacho or Mainu because we're Manchester United. We should never, ever sell a player unless we're 100% sure that they're not going to work at this football club. And, Elanga, some people think was a mistake. I don't think it actually was. I'd seen enough of Elanga, and he wasn't going to be the player he is now at Forest at Manchester United, because it just wasn't happening and we didn't have the time or the environment to give him that. So cashing in on Elanga, I think, was the right thing to do. But with Garnacho and with Mainu, they are playing regularly for the first team. They can be frustrating, but they can also be very good. And it's a very different situation to Elanga. They're way more established in the first team than he was. They've delivered more in the first team than he did. And they're closer to the end game than he was. So we shouldn't be, as a Manchester United Football Club, we shouldn't be selling these players. For me, selling Garnacho or Mainu would be like selling Rashford at 20. Like, we would never do it. Or Scholes at 20. You just wouldn't do it. We shouldn't do it. We shouldn't be doing that. And if we do it, we're doing it for money. And we shouldn't be doing that. It's going up with Garnacho, though, 42% now. Mark, I completely agree with you, Garnacho. As much as he's still developing, he's been our most exciting player over the last few games. And he can be so much more. If we sell him, it's criminal, says Alex. Look, the thing is about Garnacho is I read a lot of comments. I don't necessarily take a lot of notice of it when they're inaccurate, but I do read them. And I was reading the match reaction yesterday, and I gave Garnacho a 6.5, and I gave him a 5 against Bilbao. And there's a couple of people who sort of basically said, Garnacho hater. And they got a few likes on it, and they got a few replies on it. And I thought, this is incredible to me, because most people say I'm Garnacho FC, which I'm not. I'm certainly not a hater either. He has frustrated me a lot in the last few weeks. So I will be critical. Otherwise, I am player FC. I have to be fair. If it's a player I like and they're not doing what I want, then I have to give them a low mark and I have to give them criticism. Otherwise, we're not being true to ourselves as fans of Manchester United. The overarching thing is I want Man United to be the best they can be. And we can't carry players just because I like them when they're not performing. Garnacho still has a lot to learn. He still has selfish tendencies. That's absolutely fine at 20. But in fairness, in recent weeks, I have seen signs of improvement. I thought against Wolves, he should have had 3 assists. You can't have assists without creativity. Against Brentford, the cross to Mount was brilliant. The goal was good as well. So, look, he hasn't got to stop shooting. I think that's something that people don't realise. When we criticise Garnacho for being selfish and shooting, it doesn't mean he can't ever shoot. He's got a good shot on him. He's just got to pass more. There's a time to shoot, there's a time to pass. And if he can figure that out, and maybe he can, then there is a chance for him at Manchester United. But it's certainly not the time to cash in. No chance. Garfield says that Mark Williams has won 3 in a row. Oh, in the snooker, yeah, but he's losing 17-10, mate. He's not gonna win 11 in a row, is he? RD Photographer, welcome. Thank you very much for your super chat. Daniel Barnes says, unrealistic, but would you sell Ahmad to the Saudi League for 100 million? Love the show. Been a watcher since 2018. Daniel, if I was selling Ahmad to the Saudi League, you'd have to want to go, and I'd want 200 million. You can't sell Ahmad because he's too young. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. It would be a very, very bad idea. Amit says, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. If and only if you had to sell either Mainu for 50 million or Garnacho for 60, whom do you sell and why? Amit, you can give yourself a pat on the back because you put me right in a bad position here, which is fine. That's what these communities are all about. So would I see how I'm trying to buy myself some time here? Would I sell Mainu for 50? Sorry, would I sell Mainu for 50 or Garnacho for 60? Well, I wouldn't sell either for very similar reasons. So if I'm going to sell one of them, I'm just going to go for the higher value. If they were both, if it was 50-50, literally 50 million for each, who would I sell? I don't know. I couldn't answer that in 2 minutes because I'd have to. If I literally have to sell one of them for 50 million pounds, I ain't going to answer that. I will answer it, but I'm not going to answer it in like a few seconds. I'd have to really think it through. Regards to selling Bruno, yes, he may drop off. Get your words out. Stretford Ender says, with regards to selling Bruno, he may drop off performance-wise, but the value we could get out of him nurturing the young uns to maturity is priceless. Good point. Mikhail says, it's crazy to me that people would sell our best players and trust that our directors are capable enough to spend it well. Look at our spending history. Another great point. Daz says, what about a sell-on clause for a Mainu or a Garnacho? Trouble with these sell-on clauses, though, is they very rarely account for anything. If you look at Mason Greenwood's sell-on clause, we get 25% of the profit on what they've already paid us. So, for example, if we sold Garnacho for 50 million and we get 25% sell-on clause, if they sell him for 80, we'd only get 25% of the 30 on top. So they very rarely work out that well, really, sell-on clauses. We win Europa, I'd definitely sell Bruno for 100 million, says Gary. Palimo says, I don't see our rebuilding starting without moving on Bruno. I know how important he is to us at the moment, but I need someone to explain to me how Bruno can successfully lead this team to a top 4. Strikers don't perform with him on the field, says Palimo. No to selling Garnacho. It's a bit like all the others. I see value occurred after Amrim has developed his system. Let's see what these lads can do. Thank you very much for that, Nick P. And Mark, between Mainu and Garnacho, who's going to Chelsea for the Club World Cup? Neither, Alex. Neither. Uriel Gaming, thank you very much for your super chat. Nick P says, Ronaldo figured out he didn't need to do 3 step-overs in a row to beat a man. I'm sure Garnacho can figure out what he needs to do with advice. Thank you very much. And John says, how are you guys not critical on Rasmus than Garnacho? They are. Where have you, John, you watch the chat all the bloody time. You know they are. The difference with Rasmus is we spent £70 million on him. That's why we're not selling him, because I don't think we should sell him either, but it's different with Garnacho and Mainu because Sir Jim and Joel, at the end of the day, see it as pure profit, don't they? Uriel Gaming says, Amrim let go of 25 players in his first proper transfer window at Sporting. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. Surely that's not true. Amrim let go of 25 players in his first proper transfer window at Sporting. Bollocks. That can't be true. I've never heard anything like it in my life. It can't be true. Renton says, genuinely curious, at what point do you decide to give up on a player? Me personally, I don't think I ever truly give up on a player. I think there's always a way back. And I think anybody, loads of people saying he did. How do you get rid of 25 players? If you got rid of 25 players at Man United in one summer, I don't think we've got 25 senior players. That's what I mean. I'm not disputing it's true, and I'm not disputing that he got rid of a lot of players, but getting rid of 25 players in one window, come on. You can't do that. That's basically a whole squad. Very few professional football clubs have more than 25 senior players in their squad. So that's my point. Surely that can't be right. He can't have done that. Linda says he did, and I trust her. I know some of them would have been loaned, etc., released. Portuguese league title decider next Saturday, says Orange. Sorry, I want to go back to that question that was asked about how do I decide enough is enough with a player? When do you give up on a player? I think everybody gets to a point where they think a player's had enough time and isn't good enough for Manchester United. But I don't think I ever close the door completely, because there's times when I've said, I think we might need to sell Bruno. I think we might be approaching the end of the road. I've certainly said it about Harry Maguire. I said it about Matic. And all three of those players did and are having a renaissance. So there's always a way back. Rashford, I don't think I did say to sell Rashford. I mean, the clips are out there, but I always hoped there'd be a way back with Rashford, because Rashford was one of my favourite players. So I don't think I ever really just sort of say there's no way back unless there's a reason for it. And there's one or two players over the years that I've said there's no way back, get rid of them. But realistically, I would use Anthony as a case in point. I think some people with Anthony were very quick to judge and say, let's get rid of him. But I would always look to give them 2 years. I think as a standard, 2 years is fair. First year's adjustment, second year, you've got to deliver. And if at the end of those 2 years, it ain't looking good, bruv, then realistically, it's time to go. And I think with Anthony, we saw that, didn't we? Sancho, we've seen that. Yeah, obviously it's a little bit different with youth players coming through, but I think with signings, 2 years is fair enough, isn't it? Portuguese, I've done that one. Thank you very much. Vladimir says, we need more height and athleticism. We're undersized compared to other teams. And don't forget, when Amrim took over at Sporting, it was after the fans attacked players, hence why so many were happy to depart, says Aaron G. We can't compare what Ruben Amorim did at Sporting in any deeper way than he had a system and it took time to implement it. He may never replicate his system in the same way that we saw at Sporting at Manchester United. The wide players are very interesting. We've said it before. At Sporting, at the end, they were wingers who could defend. And at United, at the moment, they're wing-backs. So will that evolve? I hope so. It needs to. But I don't think it'll evolve next season, because I don't think we've got enough wide players. I don't think we discuss this enough. I don't think anybody discusses this enough. When Amrim came in, everybody spoke about how important the wide players are in his team. And they're clearly very important. We're playing 3 centre-backs. Most teams play 2. It's unheard of to play 3 centre-backs and 2 wing-backs. That's 5 defenders. And that's not what we were talking about when we got Amrim. We were talking about wingers, 2 number 10s, 3 centre-backs. So no one talks about that now. Everyone's talking about a number 10, a striker, a midfielder, a centre-back, a goalkeeper. Everybody's focused on the spine of the team, and yet it's universally understood that Amrim's most important area is the wide players, of which we've only got fullbacks. We actually haven't got one winger who can play his system other than Ahmad. But nobody's talking about let's buy wingers who can play his system. I know we wanted Kenda and he's going to Chelsea, but that is an area of his team that I'm hoping is going to evolve. I want to see wingers in this system who can defend, not wing backs, because then it's too easy for it to become a back 5. And if it becomes a back 5, I think we'll struggle to score goals. So look, maybe people are going to come through the youth. Maybe that's the case. But maybe Dorgu will become really, really attacking. But you look at people like Hakimi and Mendes, and they're brilliant at joining the attack. But that's what I want to see an evolution of in this system. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. What about Frimpong? Yeah, I'd love Frimpong. I don't know whether we'll pursue it, but I would love Frimpong. Obviously, Trent's leaving Liverpool now, so maybe that's where he'll end up. A bit off topic, but a big FU to the Celtic supporters that ruined the Tina Turner song, says Linda. Goza says £100 million for Bruno isn't a huge bid. He's a top quality player, probably worth 80 mil. It was over 100 million. I wouldn't even respond to the offer. Only Wirtz can do that, and he's expensive, says Yelix, in relation to replacing Bruno. Yalix says, what is Saudi's bid for Bruno, and is it possible to find a younger alternative with similar attributes? I'd say the bid will be around 100 million if there's any indication that anybody wants to do it. I wouldn't go for a replacement. I'd go for somebody who is a definitive specialist midfielder or a definitive specialist 10 who can play in an Amrim system. Why were you early, says Martin? Yeah, apologies for that. I had the Bruno news. It's bank holiday in the UK. I was a little bit bored, so I went live at 7, which I sometimes do on a Monday. You should be, it's normally 8 o'clock, but actually, I wish I hadn't said that. Every 8 o'clock show this week is at 7 o'clock, apart from Friday, because it's Champions League week. So that was always the case. No, I'm lying. I did say it'd be 8 o'clock tonight, but it's 7. But it's definitely going to be 7 the next 2 nights. Anyway, would you take Jimenez at Man United? No. Yes, he's experienced. Yes, he can do a job, but that's not what I want. I don't want experience but can do a job. I want experience straight into the team, score goals. Sorry a minute, I've just got to refresh the chat because it's just playing up a little bit. Please share the video and smash a like on the video if you're watching. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe. Right, that's back working now. We will raise, Amit says, will we raise 100 million by selling players this summer? 25 for Sancho, 35 to 40 for Anthony, and 40 for Rashford. Who else will you sell to raise funds? Remember, you're missing out on amortization with those players, though. We won't get pure profit on Sancho and Anthony. There will be some deduction for what is owed on the contracts. Ronnie's Gaming, thank you very much for being a member for 28 months. And how do we get better with owners who won't spend and a fan base that can't imagine selling the next Rashford? What's the pathway, says Corey? It's a long pathway, Corey. I think that we see that on a regular basis, just how conflicted and moany this fan base is and how little patience there is, which is why we needed a hard reset. You know, I'm not even going to have a moan at people who are negative and say Amrim out, etc. You know, I disagree with it. But this is why we needed a hard reset, because I liken it to that little hole in your Wi-Fi router where you stick your little pencil in and reset it. This is what Man United needed, a hard reset, because there are so many legacy issues at the football club. There are so many intricacies and behaviours and learnt behaviours from this Glazer era that we're locked in cycles and patterns, and the only way to change that is to hit a hard reset and start something brand new that nobody has any patterns or behavioural mistakes. So, yeah, look, you're right. There is no patience. There is no complete support for the manager. There's loads of things that just are wrong in the fan base and divisions in the fan base. But I think if we had a hard reset, that would help a lot of it, which is why most of us wanted no relationship with the Glazers from Sir Jim. I sell Bruno for Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen, says John. Shahin says, I miss most of the show. Am I the only one who thinks selling Bruno makes sense? He has a couple of years left and we can replace him with younger ones. Well, 44% of you agreed with you in the poll, Shahin, so you're not the only one. Without Bruno, where would this team be, says Alonso? The wingers have to find a balance between shooting and providing service. The strikers need chances. Thank you very much, Alonso. Appreciate that. MUFC says, who would you prefer, Cunha or Mbumo? Oh, it's easy for me. It's easy for me, and I'm in quite a fortuitous position because, of course, I was asked this question before about who I would want, who was the signing I wanted in the summer, and I had no idea that United were going to go for Cunha when I was saying this back at the start of the season and in January. I think Cunha fits us like a glove. So I'm not just saying that because it's a player that we're close to signing. I've said it on this channel for a long time. I think he fits us like a glove. I like Mbumo. He's a good player, but no, definitely Cunha. Definitely Cunha. I just think he's got that United player thing. Yeah. How can we even think about selling Bruno? He is the heart of the team, says Smitty. And Tusha says, if Amrim gets his way, Garnacho will be sold first as he can't defend from wing, but I've seen changes in Garnacho's last 3 weeks, so fingers crossed. I think you're wrong on that, Tusha. I think if Amrim hadn't fought for Garnacho in January, he'd be gone. I think Amrim likes Garnacho. I think Amrim wants Garnacho to stay. I don't think it's Amrim that's given up on Garnacho at all. I think he's the one that's, wanted him to do it. Corey says there's no hard reset coming. That's a fantasy that died. No, I know, but we did need it, in my opinion. I don't disagree. Bruno has been the instrumental, but he is not irreplaceable, says John. And we haven't stopped. Sorry. How did you steal Cunha from Arsenal, says Joe? I think Arsenal were interested in Cunha in January, but I think that their profile of player has changed. I'm not so sure that Cunha suits the Arsenal system as much as he suits our system. And this is where you've got to be systematic, 5-star, because if you look at the Arsenal system, Cunha would have to play where Odegaard is. And I know Odegaard's not playing that well at the moment, but they have also got Havertz. He's not a winger and he's not really a striker. But in a Manchester United system, there are two positions that really fit him like a glove, and that's the 2 10s behind the striker. He can also play striker as well. So Cunha suits Manchester United's system way more than Arsenal. And I think Arsenal moved away from Cunha when Andrea Berta came in, because as the director of football, I think they know they need more specialist. They need a winger, another midfielder, a striker. But it ain't the Arsenal channel. Joe the Bro says, it seems like every club has the high ground on Arsenal when linked with the same players. I hope we do. The one player I really hope we have the high ground on Arsenal with is Gyökeres. That's just, I'm getting a bit greedy, but hopefully Cunha is going to be a Man United player, and then hopefully we can get Gyökeres as well. But you know what? I was thinking this today. Like, it's been a bank holiday in the UK, so it's like a weekend really. And I'm used to Monday, being a Monday, a working day, I'm a lot more busier. So, although I have done 3 United Stand shows today because everyone else is off, but I've enjoyed that. But it's given me a little bit of time to think and potter about. And I was thinking, you know what? I don't think anybody realises this. I was talking to Robbie this morning, and he was talking about whether Arsenal could get through against PSG. And I said, if you do, your final is basically 4 weeks away. The Champions League final, I think, was 4 weeks last Saturday. The Europa League is 2 weeks on Wednesday. Like 2 weeks on Wednesday is the Europa League final. So it comes round really quick. Really quick. Champions League's the last game of the football domestic calendar. I think it's end of May or start of June. The Europa League is in 2 weeks. So it's going to come around really quick. Hopefully the players will Uriel Gaming says, hopefully the players we get will be press resistant. Some of our players seem to lose the cool when the opponent piles on the pressure. And John says, yeah. This just I don't want to move on from that. There are players that have done well for us this season. And I know that sounds bad when you think about what this season actually is, but there are players out there that have done quite well for us this season, but are not press resistant. And it'll be interesting to see, sort of like what happens with those players in the longer term. You have to think what game will be like when he fills out. I mean, look, as an example, I don't think... Who do I think's not press resistant but hasn't played that well, but has played quite well this season? I don't think Harry Maguire is really a press resistant centre back if you get at him. I don't think many of our defenders are. I don't know that De Ligt is, or Mazraoui is, or I don't know. I like all those players and we're not going to change them, but when you are being pressed high up the pitch, do they give you confidence that we can play out? They do sometimes, to be fair. Agate's had that accused of him as well. When we say press resistant, I mean it's like when a team really presses you, like Bournemouth did. Are we comfortable on the ball to play out? But to be honest with you, I think this aspect of football needs to change anyway. We do it a lot still. Like, this playing out from the back is such a waste of bloody time most of the time. You've got to mix it up. What I like about PSG is sometimes they play out from the back, and then sometimes Donnarumma will ping a 50-yard pass to the halfway line. I think Man United need to evolve into that as well, because too many teams in the Premier League religiously play out from the back, and I'm tired of seeing us lose the ball on the edge of the box and then score a goal or get a shot off. I literally would rather boot the ball to their goalkeeper out of Anana's hands and let them start from the back. I mean, I lived in an era where the goalkeeper just used to throw it out their hands and boot it deep into the opposition half. That used to happen 90% of the time in every top division game. And sometimes I just think we never see a goalkeeper do that. And I'm not saying we should see a goalkeeper do that, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to do it every now and again to stop losing the ball on the edge of our box and them scoring a goal. I think too many teams do it too regularly. We need players who want the pressure and want to fight, says Trina. You have to think what game will be like when he fills out. Garnacho will be like when he fills out and becomes stronger. It's worth keeping him to find out. It really could pay off. I completely agree, Smoggy. Same with Mainu. They're 20. Imagine what they could be physically and ability-wise at 22. Great point from Uriel Gaming. Any players from Leverkusen, they play the same, says John. Yeah, Frimpong. Tar's been linked to us. Yeah. If we sell Bruno, I guarantee we get relegated, says Tusher. We have no goals in the team. Everything comes from Bruno. We wouldn't get relegated. It's impossible to get relegated at the moment. We'd finish fourth from bottom, but we wouldn't get relegated. Said it right at the end of the afternoon show, but people are forgetting that we have Leon coming in this summer from South America, says Z3. I don't think people are forgetting. I'm certainly not forgetting, Z3. I hope you're doing well. I don't think people are forgetting. I just think it's about how ready he will be. He's another learner driver, isn't he? And even if he's half decent, there's going to be good games and bad games. He's not going to go in and be ready straight away, is he? Thank you very much for that. Smitty Squire says, how can we think about selling Bruno? We've done that one as well. Yeah, look, I agree with Savage. Leon's too young, same like Dorgu. I think he will be used, but there's just no way he's going to come in and play well every week. Our Leon win was absolute football heritage, says Senor David. We didn't even win a title, but it was more memorable than City's treble. Soul and respect can't be bought. There we go. We need play. Done that one. Thank you very much. Let me just check out the chat. How much Saudi bid for Bruno, says United Co. It'd be about £100 million if it goes anywhere. But like Yo says, how much of that money would just go straight into building a stadium? It's gone very quiet on the stadium, hasn't it? It's almost like with the stadium, Man United needed to put something positive out there that they weren't ready to do. So they put it out there early with a couple of chat GBT images to do a bit of spin, because we've heard nothing since that picture about what's going on, have we? It's gone really quiet. I wonder if they're waiting for stage 2 when we don't get in the Europa League. Would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. It's gone really quiet. Like Matthew Gartell says, it could be years off. It's going to take 5 years to build it when we start, and we're nowhere near starting. And it's 2025. So, yeah. Anonymous says, could you rank all the managers since Sir Alex? I've done it loads of times, mate. But I'll happily do it for you. Worst would be Moyes. I'm not going to use interim, so Ranić, Giggs don't get a mention. Worst would be Moyes. Second worst, I would say... It's hard. I didn't like Van Gaal. I'm going to put Van Gaal second worst. Ollie third worst. Ten Hag second. Jose the best. I'm obviously not going to put Amrim in at the moment. Don't get me started on Ollie. I've already said that this morning. I can't believe he has the balls to sit there and say, I can't believe they've sold Scotty. He was shit for Ollie. He was playing as a holding midfielder. He's acting like McTominay was the player that we sold under Ollie. You didn't even play him in the right position, mate. Talking about Scotty and Fred. They were laughed at, mate. They were shit. They were a terrible midfield pair under you. I liked Fred in certain games, but McTominay's best games were under Ten Hag as an attacking midfielder. He's talking like, we've sold bloody Xavi and Iniesta. I can't believe they've sold Scotty. The thing about Fred and McTominay is they give you 100%. Yeah, but they were 100% crap most of the time. No, I don't. I think there's a case to put Ollie second bottom, but I preferred Ollie over Van Gaal, so I'd put him mid-table and go Ten Hag second and Mourinho first. But look, we are ranking different shades of shit if we're being completely honest. I mean, I think we made a mistake with Mourinho sacking him, but we didn't understand. The rest of them did deserve the sack, really. Yeah. But there is a cult of Ollie. There are still people out there that think Ollie did amazing. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, by the way. I think as a person, he comes across really well. I think as a footballer, I absolutely thought he was amazing. But as a manager of Man United, I think we lost 3 years there. I think it really damaged us. IDK says we won a lot of games under Ollie. Yeah, we did. But most of those were playing shit football, counter-attacking football, moments football, boring football, and our best era was when there was no fans, which I just found weird. We were amazing with no fans. But we didn't win anything, did we? Won no trophies. In fairness, Van Gaal won an FA Cup. A lot of people forget that. Ten Hag won 2 trophies in 2 years. Mourinho won 2 trophies in 1 year. So, yeah. But I agree with Leon. The biggest mistake we made was not listening to Ranić. Corey Lineker says, in 4 years' time, Garnacho will be world-class. I have said for a long time that I do think that Garnacho's got the highest ceiling at Manchester United. I haven't said it for a while, but I do hold on to that. I also think that we're going to win the Europa League. So if you want to ridicule me about Garnacho having the highest ceiling, you're going to ridicule me about the Europa League, because I've been saying it since January that we're going to win the Europa League. And a lot of people keep taking the piss, but we're getting closer. And could be my best prediction ever. Hope so. I was all up for selling Bruno until this season. It's made me realise we need to keep him and build around him, says Roscoe. And on that bombshell from Roscoe, our membership, I think I'll call it a day because I'm getting tired. Fantastic show tonight. Really enjoyed it. Sometimes a topic comes out and really ignites a conversation. And I think tonight there's been so many great contributions that have been very different, but very thought-provoking. So well done to you all tonight. Classic 8 o'clock show. Typical ex-United players romanticising in hindsight. Says Super Donut. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. Brilliant tonight. Well done, everybody. Take care. I am back with you on the 10 o'clock show tomorrow. We will have a 7 o'clock show tomorrow because it is Champions League night tomorrow night as well. Will we get a Here We Go this week? I hope so. I would like to... I'm not stressed about the Cunha deal at all. I think it will happen, but I would like it to happen. Like Fabrizio did say over a week ago, Here We Go could be very soon. I don't class very soon as over a week, so I'm hoping it's going to happen soon. Take care. TTFN, says Corky. Not heard that for a while. Ta-ta for now. Speak to you later. Take care. Thanks for watching.